So guys, obviously you talked about kind of like events, you talked about, should we say, lots of top tips there. The one thing which I always kind of think about is start with the end in mind. So if someone's looking to go from 500,000 to 5 million, maybe it might be a good idea to understand, what does 5 million, the operation, look like now for you guys? Can you share a bit of an insight into like team structure, the way it looks like, and then they've got something to aim towards?
Absolutely. So I think when you move that much volume, you need to start building a relationship, not just now your vendors, but for like my freight brokers, logistics, because I can save a lot of money when you move in that much inventory. And then obviously now from 500,000, I only had 1 employee, now I got 10. So you got to also make sure you take care of them.
I would say the big mindset shift that I realized is like all the guys that are doing, you can get to 10 mil in private label with like 2 people for sure. But in wholesale, you definitely, I would say you probably need more people, or you have to get really lucky with like some big ass accounts.
That's hungry.
Yeah. But I guess like when I started my business, it sounds dumb in hindsight, but like I didn't realize like business is supposed to be like repeatable steps. It's very simple.
Yeah, it's
right?
true.
But like I remember I used to go to work and I was like, what did I do today? Or like, let me just work on this, right? Or like do this in the business. And then after a while, I like met other people that like have bigger teams. I'm like, how do you have like someone do that like all day and stuff? And then I realized they like broke everything down in their business to like, you know, steps that are repeatable. And then I figured out like, hey, what am I doing all the time in my business? And then I slowly documented that and then outsourced it. And then, you know, just kept repeating that, refining it, and then hiring someone else to do it. But yeah, team structure wise is also really important to kind of understand. I guess with like the wholesale side, you know, you need like warehouse employees, of course, but like I have it to where it's like, say we're starting at the beginning. I have like someone that does prospecting. So they just like look for what like wholesalers to contact, what vendors to contact. Then I have a salesperson that just only contacts, right? So his job is just call. Right? And then he does the forms, fills it out, but he doesn't analyze the price lists at all, like once we get it. I have like another team of like about 3 people, and all they do is look at Excel sheets all day, and they crunch the numbers with like software and like Price Checker 2, Keepa, and then they tell the sales guy like, hey, what to order, right? So the sales guy is just like a front-facing person, because my sales guy, he's in the Philippines and he talks English, but like the price breakdown team, they're all in like Latin America, and they don't speak the best English. So you gotta figure out like who sits in what seat. And then once like we're through there, then I have 2 guys that are in charge of reorders. And they're just like, we already have the relationships with these vendors, and they just constantly reorder. And then there's like some like hierarchy manager. There's like a manager of the price breakdown team. And then above him is like, I guess, head of the wholesale. And then that guy's like my right-hand man who like just kind of oversees everything.
Wow. And that just goes to like the buying process, right? But when it comes to the more internal, right, you got to have somebody to open up the shop now, someone to close up the shop, someone to unload the pallets, load the pallets.
Yeah, having a warehouse in itself is like its own business and its own
And then
team.
you have to reconcile, right? That's the biggest thing, right? If you order $40,000 of product, but you only get 35, someone has to reconcile it. And then someone has to, and then, you know, then
How long have you had a warehouse? 2 years now? 2.5 years? 3?
So I purchased my warehouse last April, and then before that, it was basically at the garage.
So I would say both of us have like maybe 2.5 years of running a warehouse, like experience. Because like before that, I used like prep centers, and I just ship all my stuff to them. But I did the math, and I was like, it's just cheaper to do it
Time flies.
with my own team. And all that. So that's why we ended up bringing it all in-house for at least the wholesale side of the business. And it complements my like private label side too. So now I don't have to use like a 3PL on the West Coast, and quality control is a lot better by keeping it in-house. And I like having somewhere to go work every day versus just like work from home all the time. I love working from home, but it's just like having your own office, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, for sure. Because then you always feel like you're always working. You're not at home anymore. You feel like you're always at work sometimes.
Yeah,
so
it's just nice. Like a good environment change.
But that's a sacrifice you had to take.
Yeah, I was saving money.
Yeah, saving money so you can go rent or buy or whatever you want to, do to get a warehouse, whatever it takes.
Let's kind of break it down into 2 parts. We've got the warehouse side, and then we've got the virtual side. Warehouse side, talk me through, what are the kind of roles that you have? If you're happy to share like rough pay, what you're kind of paying. Is there anything in particular that people should know if they're looking at doing a warehouse? Maybe like things you come up with, contract negotiations, or like working with staff. What kind of advice would you give in that side?
So I think he's more on he can talk more about the VA, both obviously. for me, I mean, I don't have as many as VA, but for me, I have a warehouse manager. So he opens up, makes sure, you know, the packers are already set. Then I have Cole, who basically prints out all my labels for me to give to the picker. So then, you know, he prints out all the FBM shipping labels. And if we wholesale, we always get a new product. He makes sure we know what box to use to measure the box properly. So he does that to get the shipping label, because, you know, we want to be charged the right amount and not get overcharged with, you know, using UPS, USPS, and blah, blah, blah. And then obviously I have 2 buyers as well from previous accounts. Then obviously we have removal orders that come back from FBA, but I'm 70% FBM. So what happens with FBM, we also get out returns. So you got to do the returns. So she needs to open up boxes, make sure it's not damaged. If it is, you know, we want to give the customer like 50% back because it damaged the product. You know, it's not fair, you know. What else do we do? So she also called customer service. It's big on Amazon. I mean, that's what Jeff Bezos took it to where it's at, right? Customer service. So we have someone that calls customers, you know, also to make sure, like, if they're not satisfied and they left us a negative feedback, what can we do to make it right, you know?
They give you the phone numbers on MFN?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's like another interesting thing too.
Yeah, yeah. So, that's about it for me. I mean, it's obviously just unloading and loading. So, yeah, we got.
Is there anything in that journey, obviously growing to say 500,000, getting your warehouse and coming to now, like contract negotiations with the warehouse, anything kind of out of the ordinary that, hey, you should probably be aware of this in regards to the warehouse operation?
I think the most important thing is, like, you got to understand that if you enjoy running a warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, running a warehouse. And so, like, I got my warehouse first, right?
You did. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So I got a warehouse, and I was lucky enough to get a 6-month lease, and which is really short. Normally you can't get 6-month leases. It was the middle of COVID, so they were just like hungry for like business. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. I'll see if it works. I live in Texas. We live in Texas. We're here in Houston, Texas. Right now, outside in the warehouse, it's not fully insulated. And, you know, outside it's like 30, 40 degrees. So you got to understand that sometimes the weather is cold. And in Houston, it's really humid. So it gets like, the weather gets to like 90 degrees. Finding people that are like very happy to work in those things is like...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh
like,
my
that's
God.
like a huge thing in itself, because
We're so grateful.
if you get a warehouse, the last thing you should be doing is actually be in the warehouse, like packing stuff. Literally, it's not the best use of your time. If you're doing that, you definitely need to hire someone and teach them to do it, and you should stop doing that. If you're running an Amazon business and you're still packing your own boxes, you have not thought about scale. Like, it's a very amateur thing to do, in my opinion. Like, whatever way I can tell you to make you not do it, you know, like, don't do it. It's just like not the best use of your time. There's just so many other things to do, right? And it comes down to the story of where I've learned the concept of, like, don't work in your business, but try work on your business, right?
Yeah.
So working on your business would be like teaching someone how to like pack and prep in your warehouse, while working in your business is actually like, you know, doing all that stuff every day.
But more importantly, what I want to touch up on when he was saying like how hot it is in Texas and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Productivity, right? To get the best productivity, you got to take care of your employees. When I bought my first warehouse, there was no AC. First thing I did is install an AC unit. And then what I also did is we spent a lot of money on those big ass fan, is what they're called. You put water in it, and it takes away the humidity. If they're not comfortable, productivity is not going to be at its best. Yeah.
So I'm a numbers guy. I love looking at stats, measures. You know, in regards to like productivity, is there any kind of metrics that you analyze in your operation? Are you able to share?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like for the FBM orders, we get a pick list. Each pick list has 40 orders. So then once the picker picks it, we put everything in a tote. Then the packer takes the tote. They have to put their initial on that pick list. So I know they did 40 orders. So then at the end of the day, we add up how many this packer did, how many this packer did. And that's how I know, okay, hey, tomorrow you're on schedule, you're on schedule, you're not on schedule. Because it's probably, I'm only going to keep the best, you know? So that's one of the way I do it, yeah.
Yeah, so I do something similar too, but we have like a scorecard system, and we use like the EOS business model, which I feel like also called Traction too, right? And this is only something I implemented in the last 2 years, and I wish I like knew about it like way earlier. But essentially, like they say, like if you're stuck on an island and you could only have like say like 5 numbers about your business to understand how it's doing, what would those 5 numbers be, right? But you break it down to each department or each person kind of having their own 5 numbers. So for like our warehouse team, we track how many items we ordered to our warehouse from the supplier, how many items we shipped out, how many hours were worked. And then that way we get the estimated, like how much did it cost to pack and prep each unit. And now we can further optimize. And as long as we're beating the prep center, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But, like I know we can beat them way, way, way better if like the prep center is like making money off of me, right? Because of all that. So,
but it gets very complex at times, right? Because you gotta also
does.
figure out, like, you don't want to send too much inventory in sometimes because then you gotta pay storage fees, you know?
yeah, so that happens too. So it's all like a balance. But I think as soon as you start tracking it, oh, this is what the trend is, or like, are we trending up or are we trending down in the right or wrong way with the different numbers?
Well said. Yeah, for sure.
So that's been super valuable.
I completely agree with you, and I love that idea of 5. You know, just choose 5 numbers, and it's also very careful about what 5 numbers they are, because they give you an overview of everything, and from that you just know everyone knows what to focus on, because you're just focusing on those 5 numbers.
Yeah, I agree. I've met some people that like I feel like they track way too many, and it's like, which one do you optimize for, right? And it gets like a little bit confusing, but it might work for them. I don't know, but for me, like I try to minimize it to like as many little like scorecards as we can. And we're like a big fan of, sometimes we only keep the scorecard for like 1 quarter, 1 month, just depending on what task it is. And we're like, oh, you mastered it, like we're not going to track that anymore. We'll like pay attention to a different metric, right? Because at the end of the day, it is a little annoying to like just update the scorecards a little bit, right? So I just try to like make sure we focus on the important ones and make sure the team knows that.
Obviously, we talked now about the warehouse. I'm quite interested in like the virtual operation, and I love your kind of MOS, or like rule of 5 things you track. Obviously, you've given us the structure of your virtual operation. What kind of things do you measure? Like, do you have a 5 for the virtual team?
The virtual team has quite a few, definitely more than 5, but like no person has more than 5. Like each person, like, I mean, we'll track everything from like the standard stuff, like revenue. I don't do like net profit with my team. That's like an interesting discussion. Like,
yeah,
some teams, like they'll share the exact net profit with their team. I personally don't.
You don't want them to know like what exactly.
I'll share gross profit numbers.
Yeah.
You know, to give them an idea. But I'm like, I also share expenses. I'm like, so there's a big chunk of expenses too. So like revenue, our sales targets, like how much do we spend in wholesale, right? So similar to you were saying, like we got to spend all of our money on inventory. So we have like that for wholesale too. The sales guys have like how many like vendor outreaches did they do? How many did they close? And then it leads also to, they track all the warehouse stats for the warehouse team. So they like make everyone's lives easier locally. Their time is just at a better rate than it is the people here. When the warehouse team goes to work here, they know exactly what to prep and pack.
Not just that, but their work ethic sometimes too.
True, but those are like examples of some of the scorecards. And then like on the private label side, there's things like that too, of like how many items did we source, how many profitable items did we have this year, what's the revenue, and different things like that. Just always working and optimizing on it, and like kind of asking other people too, like, hey, what are you tracking? What's important to you? Or like I'll ask friends, I was like, what KPIs do you have for like your sourcing guy? Or what KPIs do you guys have for your warehouse manager, right? And then we'll trade KPIs to kind of figure out like, okay, this one makes sense for my business at this time, at this stage.
Interesting. I think from my perspective, listening to what you're saying, you've got the warehouse operation, and I really love the tracking the KPIs, really numbers driven, and because you're seeing the change in that every week or every month. How often do you track?
Everybody on our team has to update it before the Wednesday.
Okay, pretty much weekly?
Yeah, so weekly. But the big thing, like why we started doing it, it was similar to, the easiest way I can explain to was before I had Chris do we have another friend named Chris.
Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah. He did my bookkeeping. But before that, I realized I was always stressed out because I was uncertain about like where I was in my business. I didn't know how much money I was making that month. I talked to my team, and like a common thing was like, I don't know if I'm doing good or bad, right? And then so as soon as we implemented scorecards, they know like, hey, I'm supposed to hit 100 calls, a day or whatever it is. So they know that if they do good or bad on a daily basis. And then if you like zoom out, they have like monthly goals, right? Or weekly goals, and for like different areas. So they know if they're like on track, hitting it, or like below it, right? And then we adjust from there. And that's how we like in the business now. I'm kind of like a detective in a way. So I'll just like kind of look around, and I'm like, okay, like why are the numbers weird here? And then I'll like jump into the data more. And then if that still doesn't make sense, I'll just have a conversation, a team meeting with like the people in that department. And usually I'll just job shadow them, right? I'll just be like, or I'll make them record like, hey, do this process. And then you'll always see like, why are you doing it like this? Or sometimes they're like, oh, wow, they're doing it like that. I didn't know that too, right? So that's usually how like I fix problems. So like I'll go fix like the sales department right now, and then like after a quarter I'll go to like maybe optimizing the warehouse or something like that. I only have one other person on my team that just started doing like what I'm doing in that detective type position. So I'm trying to get more people like that eventually, you know? So that works.
So to touch up on this though, what you just said, that's why I share my numbers, the net profit. Now they know it's making money. So every morning, one of my VA has to go through all of our orders. If they're selling, they have to check how many we have left on managed inventory. But now they know with the report that I pull from Inventory Lab after all my shipping costs and everything, they know it's profitable. So it's like, hey, add it back into the cart right now for the next order.
Oh yeah.
So I think that, so yeah. So like my top 2 VAs, like they have like the main accounts. They just have to keep reordering. So, and I have an accounting background. So I see how it's hard for you to know your number, but it's still, you still want to have your books right for sure. Like you should definitely, once you get past 500 to $1 million, you should definitely have a legit software, Zero, QuickBooks.
Yeah, QuickBooks.
You do want to know your numbers.
I took too long to set that up.
I took too long. Yeah,
I
same.
took too long to set that
I
up.
didn't do it until 2017, 18, 19, 20, 2020. But because I have an accounting background, so I knew it was profitable. So I already knew my numbers.
I mean, I knew I was profitable, but I didn't know like how profitable, you know, which is like very dumb to say. I feel like, you know? But like, there's someone out there. I know there's someone out there watching this video, and they're like, I don't have a bookkeeper, you know, or like I do the numbers myself, or like I do the numbers every 3 months, you know, like that was me, you know, like I was like, I think I'm making money, you know.
It's interesting. I've met so many sellers who are doing probably in the starting to 500,000 range. Where it's like, cool, what's your net profit? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, you got to find out, like, because sometimes it's more, and you're like, well, hey, and sometimes it's like, oh my god, it's not actually that much. Right, I need to tweak.
And then with the bookkeeping too, that's how like I caught all those like huge fuck ups where like my PPC spend was like out of control, or like I realized I was spending like too much on this.
Oh yeah, there's that one time when you spend like 20,000 or something on one ski on accident.
Yeah, just stupid shit like that. But like numbers paint a picture, right? And
but there you go. Hey, it goes back to what we said earlier in the video. Your failures, right? Once now you know what to do, and now you got your books, and now you know that's not going to happen again.
Yeah, it better not happen again.
We've talked about, should we say, the big picture, where you are now, warehouse, virtual teams. We've talked about some of the core things of getting there. You talked about like, you know, courses, or you talked about people, coaching, the right environment, networking, expanding your mindset, showing that it can actually happen, talking, like sharing with many other people. Before we finish up, are there any kind of like final thoughts that you would share if anyone is on that journey and maybe something we haven't discussed?
Believe in yourself for sure, number one, right? If you think you can't get there, you're not gonna get there. I mean, you just got to go for it. Like, don't be scared. You got to take that leap of faith and try it out. You have nothing to lose, especially at our age. You don't want to start when you're later on in life, right? If you do it now, I mean.
I get that. It is about taking action.
Yeah.
That's super, super important. And I say, like, don't be afraid to fail or anything too. But I guess when it comes down to it, it's just like, I think the people that last are the people that, like I said, they're willing to take action. I think a lot of people just end up like hesitating. They're afraid to make mistakes. I mean, I get like uncomfortable, like wanting to shoot a YouTube video, putting myself out there, telling like my friends I was going to start a business, because everyone's afraid of like failing.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, like the more times you fail, the more likely you're going to be successful. The guy that's like super successful probably failed like so many times, right? And if you can't even fail once, you're not gonna be successful. That's just like
and this is what I hope that people get out of this video, is that we're telling you now, like we thought we were going to fail, and look at us now. But what really helped me, and shout out to Watch Me Amazon and Amazon Lit, they're the guys that opened up my eyes and were like, I was right. I should do this. I should take that leap of faith. And even if I lose, I lose. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you just gotta.
Yeah, like worst case is like, I would hate to do this again, but I would go get a job, you know, like I would go work corporate America again. I mean, that would be like the worst case scenario. I would still be able to get a job, you know, and make money that way. But at the end of the day, that's not too bad. That means you're just like back to square one where you were anyways, you know? And then for me, it's just like, talked about this the other day too. It's like the fact that I came in reality, like just knowing that like I'm gonna die one day, right? And I would rather like just try.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And you were talking about earlier, my God, you get to go to like networking events in like Cancun and Costa Rica. I'm like, a lot of people are like, I want to be going there, and like that's a great life.
Yeah, it's great.
At the same time as learning too. Yeah. Now you're learning in awesome places instead of university, instead of U of H or college. You're like actually learning at,
Yeah, I would say that's another thing too. It's like everyone, like we talked about taking action, but like everyone always gets stuck on like trying to study, listen to all these podcasts, watch these YouTube videos. Like at the end of the day, if you do it, you're gonna learn way more. Most people here probably watching this video like might have a college education, and then you get your job and you're like, I didn't use anything from college.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
It's gonna be like very similar in the Amazon space sometimes. Like you're gonna learn these concepts, but not even be able to apply it right away or use it. You just gotta do it and like just figure out what's next and figure out what's next, figure out what's next. And that's like nonstop.
And the best part, when you come back from those events, like Costa Rica, there's a mastermind. Man, you come back and you're like 2 weeks. You're loaded for 2 weeks. You're like, man, I'm going 10 times harder this week.
Yeah, they're motivated. Yeah, that's why I like going to these in-person events. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I want to like be able to come back and be like, oh yeah, this is what I did. I implemented what you said, so. I really like saying that. Like when someone like gives me advice, or like Chris, like he'll give me contacts for like, hey, I'll borrow like Chris's like freight forwarder or his like box guy. So like Chris did like all these things in the warehouse that I haven't done yet, and so I just ask him for advice, right? And then I love letting like people know that I get advice from, like, hey, like thanks for like your pallet recommendation, or thanks for the box recommendation. It worked out, so. It's a great feeling.
Well done to you guys for obviously what you've achieved. But I think, for me and everyone watching, thank you so much for sharing. It's like big picture advice there and how to get there. And I think you've really painted a really great picture of like things we should be focusing on, but also as well operationally what it looks like and what the end goal looks like. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. If anyone's interested in getting in contact with you guys, what's the best way? Do you want to share now?
Absolutely, yeah. Facebook, Instagram. It's Chris Klein. Klein. I'm actually doing some coaching right now. So if anybody wants to learn on how to start an Amazon business, session 1, I'll show them how to create their Amazon account, get the EIN number, about 2 hours. The next session, show you all the applications that I use to find profitable products. The best one out there is obviously Keepa, Ref Setter, to figure out if it's going to be profitable and net profit. And then thirdly, showing you guys how to find distributors, how to find vendors. So anybody wants to contact me, for sure. Like I'm here to help.
Yeah, and then if you guys want to keep up with what I'm doing, Instagram, Facebook, I'll put in a link below.
We'll put it down below, but go on.
And then with the YouTube, I have my own YouTube channel too, and a Facebook Amazon community called Solar Tradecraft. So join that. I'm in there. And if you guys are also off topic a little bit, if you guys are really interested in crypto, I also have a Discord for that, and that's where I spend like my fun time when I'm not like paying attention to my Amazon business. So I like making passive income.
NFTs right here too. NFTs.
Yeah, so it's just fun. It's like a new way to make money, and it's like,
I love it, and especially in the space, you meet a lot of Amazon sellers who do crypto and NFTs. It's very much a crossover.
Goes back to what we said earlier, learning. You want to keep learning.
Yeah, I just like it.
And now we have the money to be able to learn how to buy things that can make us more money. That's the beauty about Amazon, I mean, it's crazy how it took us that far. Mm-hmm. But did you think we could be buying NFTs and the crypto at this age, like back when we were, college? And it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to add on something, it's like one of the big things that people have are self-limiting beliefs. Right.
Yes. Well said. Yeah.
And like for me, like I had a couple, right, that like big ones that like I really noticed. Is one was like when I was in college, I was like, by the time I'm 30, 8 years later, I'm gonna have at least a 6-figure income. And I did that the first year out of college, right, with like the Amazon business and my corporate job. I was like, that wasn't as hard. And I was like, okay, wait a second, why did I think it was gonna take 8 years? I got the opportunity to start a software company in the Amazon space, and I exited that, which was awesome. And like I don't know how to code. I can never run a software company, but it happened. So it's just like, that was another self-limiting belief that I held upon myself, right? So a lot of people have these things, and it's like, I don't know if I can get to 1 million. I don't know if I can get to 5 million or whatever. And it's like, you can, but it's at the end of the day, the person holding you back the most of anyone is you.
Yeah.
It's always you.
It takes you a long way, you just got to believe in yourself. I just bought a warehouse. It had Bone RV storage in the back. It only had 10 spaces. I had to again believe in myself that I can take it to 100 spaces, and I did in 6 months, and I also do office leases. I had to always keep trying to prove myself. You always gotta,
Yeah, it's a fun challenge.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's a fun challenge to see how far you can get.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love it. And I think what would be really nice is probably to come back in a year's time, see where you're at, and probably do another video about all the other things that you're doing, and like maybe where the future goes as well. Like where do you see Amazon, and also kind of outside of Amazon in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's opportunity for part 2. Guys, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for obviously sharing, and I think everyone watching, for this, and obviously myself as well. Thank you. It's been really nice to have a chance to talk to you, learn, and obviously to listen to everything that you've done and what you've talked about. And I think some really insightful, experience that you shared, but also as well some very factual information, which is very actionable. So for me and everyone else, thank you so much for everything you've done today and taking time out to share.
All right.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome.